It's a people, it's a community, it's a life, it's a heart, it's a
Ask me a
spirit.
question. The heck would you want a picture of a tattoo of $1,000 on your penis for?
What makes this book so relevant, even though it was written over 100 years ago, is that it's about terrorism.
The work, sex, cars, bars, broads.
And with
anything.
children, it's building on what they have. They have great imagination.
Dementia is not a diagnosis, it's a set of symptoms.
And he kept explaining to me that I wasn't gay. You cannot be gay. You just
So
cannot.
the main thing is to be open and honest and be, true to yourself.
Hello and welcome to Talking About. Today our topic is basically Astrology 101, and with me is a very special returning guest, Arlene Merschat.
Thanks for having me back, John, to talking about astrology, something that's very dear to my heart.
Okay, well, let's just start at the beginning since we're calling this Astrology 101. What is astrology?
Our astrology is listening and looking at the natural rhythms of our planetary energies. And when it's relating to a particular person, it's looking at the date of birth of that person, and from that looking at the composition of the chart and what goes into their life, how they handle it. There are 12 houses, and each one of those houses has a particular function. So when we find the planets in different houses, we learn to see how the personality of that particular individual comes about. And it also can be done for cities, states, countries. It also can be done for the moment. And what it does is give us an insight into the energy that we're working with. I call it a blueprint of our lives, a blueprint of a place's life, a blueprint of a situation. So it's a very interesting blueprint of life. And I think if we looked at it, we can learn from it and realize that there are passages of time, and if we flow with that time, eventually it'll change and move into something else. So, and basically it is the study of the stars in our lives and how we can learn from that.
Okay, because I come at this from a little more of a skeptical point of view. I walk into this with the belief that there are things in this universe that I cannot explain, and there are things beyond my comprehension. So the realm of anything is possible, but yeah, I look at the daily paper and I say, okay, interesting, and then I move along to the next thing. And your view obviously is a lot more serious than mine, or perhaps even and most. How does one become grounded in the belief of perhaps the unknown, or perhaps, are you following kind of what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. I think there's a natural curiosity in almost everyone, and even people who don't, quote, believe in astrology will have a tendency to look at the newspaper, the charts, and say, oh, this isn't I, or this isn't what I would do. But it's almost a natural thing if you give it a chance.
Right. Like I said, I believe anything is possible, but I can't see guiding my life by something.
All right, there are, as I say, a lot of people who feel the same way about that. However, I think if you have the experience of looking at your chart, which I call the blueprint, as I said before,
yes,
and you look at that and you see how these interpretation of the planets, the energies, the house situations do make sense for you, then all of a sudden you say, hey, well, maybe this is not so unreal after all. Maybe I should take a look at it.
Give it a chance.
And give it a chance. And I think this is what I say to people who say, well, why bother? It does give you a view of your life. It does. And usually what catches people is when you talk about something and say, well, are you doing this at this time, or is that happening at this time? And all of a sudden there's a realization, hey, there may be some truth in this astrology. And that's another way of making people aware of it. And I think in our time, it's almost as natural as it was when it first began, looking up at the stars. We're so devoted to looking at the stars in one way or another. We're also so much aware that we as humans function along certain capacities, certain ways. This person has that trait, someone else has another trait, and that we're different, but we're similar in certain ways. And astrology helps to show how generationally we are the same, in many ways, and how individually different we are depending upon the moment of birth. Because it does, 4 minutes makes a difference in a chart. So there is a difference in each of us, even though we're one sign or another.
Oh, well, when doing a chart, how do you go about doing a chart?
Okay, at one time doing a chart would take hours in a way because you had to do it hand calculating it with using logarithms and so on and so forth with a mathematical formula. But now because of the ephemeris, this is the ephemeris which records all the placements of the stars in the sky, and also, more importantly, on the computer. Because what used to take an hour now takes a minute to 2 minutes to get the astrology chart up there. And so once you get it placed in with the date of birth, the day, the month, the year, the time, and the place, you can pull up a natal chart. And then after that, if you want to know what the progressed chart is, a natal chart is that moment of birth. A progressed chart may take you 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years later. And it shows where the planets have moved and how, in some ways, your life experiences have changed because the planets have moved from either a different sign to a different house and things like that.
And just looking to the future, can this be used to forecast to a certain extent?
Yes, it can. And this is also a guideline for people. When you're in a certain cycle, certain things, even a moon cycle in progression is in a 2.5 year cycle. It's a 2.5 day cycle when we're working with the rotation of the moon. Each month there's a pattern that it goes through, and it goes through all the 12 signs, 2.5 days basically in the sign. And once that pattern is recognized, and once we see where the energies go in our charts, we can see what the future is going to hold. We know if Saturn has a 7-year cycle, and as it goes over, it does certain things, and then it moves on. Okay, so it's a patterning, actually. It's very solidified with the movement of the planets. The moon perhaps being, well, I shouldn't say the moon, the sun and the moon being the more flexible, because the sun is each day, and the moon is every 2.5 days. So as we look at the progressions of the sun, we see changes. And then we add to it the transit, which is the third ring of a chart if you're doing a chart. You see the sun, you see the natal, the progressed, and then the transiting. You see other energies coming in. And it's that combination of things when you're doing a reading that explains what's going on in a person's life.
Okay. And would you consider it a rule book or more of a guideline?
All right, some astrologers would probably say it's an absolute rule book. To some degree, I agree with them, but there are also times where there are things that can be changed by interpretation and things that are a little more flexible than some astrologers would say. So it's a little bit of both. I've watched with people and just talking with someone today before we came into the studio about the moon phases and how a full moon will activate things in people. All you have to do is watch the behavior of people on a full moon. And most likely you're going to see some wild behavior at times, some changes, some different things going on. And that's one of the things that it helps us to do. We can see patterns in people, and we can see why a person can be one thing one time and something else another.
Okay. A lot of people would, as far as saying wild behavior or more wild behavior on a full moon, people would try and throw that to a scientific explanation. The body is mostly water, the moon affects the tides, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And would you regard astrology as a science that folds into that?
I believe that it is a science and an art, because recently there have been a lot of studies in the DNA molecules, and there have been astrologers who have worked at showing that in the DNA, our systems will respond to the planetary energies. Okay. That this is another scientific way, and there's been always a kind of a controversy between science who says no and it isn't, but even those who were strongest, one of the foremost astrologers originally was a man by the name of Gauguin, or Gauguin, who was a French scientist, and was trying to say, no, astrology doesn't work, only to find out in his explorations and his testing that it does work. And even Carl Sagan, who was sort of pitted against astrologers at certain times, if you looked at his movie, Contact, in looking at the essence of that, you see that he really didn't quite deny astrology, that it's there. And what I think is happening more and more is focusing on the fact that it is valid. It does have both the scientific, because it has value systems, it has energy patterns, and also the artistic, because we as astrologers have a creative way of interpreting, and we as humans have a creative way of using our energy. That's my feeling why it's both an art and a science.
Okay. Just, yeah, makes sense. And just getting into charting and dates and the different signs, I did prepare a few days.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not tell you these dates in advance. I didn't give you any warning. I have 12 birth dates with me, and we're going to maybe run through a few.
Okay.
And you can do a little bit of a reading or a chart. Would you call it a reading or more of a chart?
It's a reading, because a chart is a natural formation. And it makes a difference, because with a chart, we have a full picture. Okay, we have the 12 houses, we have the zodiac placement on that, we have the planetary placements on it, so we know how that energy is working through the houses. With what we're doing, which is a mini reading, I only have the date, and then I have the planet energies, but I don't know what houses they're working in. So I will be able to see traits, but not necessarily how it works through the person's life.
Okay. Well, I just pulled these off of, I think it was celebritybirthdays.com or something along those lines. So the first one that I came across was April 1st in the year 1952.
April 1st, 1952. Okay, if we go to the ephemeris, and once again, what may happen here was I read through this. It may not be exactly what the person is, because they may be using other parts of their chart, but we'll take a look and see what we can come up with here. April 1st, 1952.
52.
I went ahead. Okay, and once again, what I'm working with is a general reading, okay?
Right, but we don't have the specific time,
Right.
which is a large factor.
And the placement in the houses would also determine certain things. Well, we have 11 degree of Aries, okay? Aries are always very fiery. They're very dynamic. There's somebody who is out there. There's a certain part of them that says, I am, and so you recognize an Aries as being someone who is.
Okay.
They let you know that. They're leaders. They're out there. They're doing things that tells us that they are very much out there. The moon is in Cancer, which is an interesting combination, because the moon in Cancer makes them very sensitive. Okay? And they hide their emotions sometimes. They also draw things around their emotions, so people don't always see. And it's fire and water, and that creates a mist. So sometimes the personality is misty. We don't quite see what's there. The Mercury, again, is in Aries, and it's retrograde. Mercury and Aries are fast thinkers. They think on their feet. With it being retrograde, they have a tendency to maybe slow it down a little bit. They think before they leap. They're not always as precipitous as if it were, direct, or if it were rising a little bit before the sun. It would be a little bit different on that. But still very dynamic, very out there, very forward thinking in many ways. Venus is in Pisces, and it's an interesting combination, because just like the moon, Pisces is very sensitive, okay? Very dreamy, very artistic, very out there in different ways. And that it's a combination, again, in this person of 2 male planets and 2 female planets so far, which means that they work with both energies, the masculine and the feminine. Mars is in Scorpio, and it's retrograde. Now, this is a very intense person, okay? Extremely intense, extremely passionate, extremely committed in many, many different ways. And it's that Mars is also fixed in Scorpio, so when they have an idea or they have a commitment, they stick to it. It's something that's very deep for them, okay? And it's something that can be quite spiritual at times, or it also can be something that's very much a leadership control issue, okay? Jupiter is in Aries, okay? And that Jupiter in Aries, again, conjunct the sun. it seems to me that this person has to be a leader of some sort, whatever field, whatever area they're in. They would be a dynamic person. They would be out there leading, directing, showing, and would again be an organizer, would put out new things, would be an adventurer in certain ways. Saturn is in Libra, and again, that person, this person has several retrograde planets too, which means it may take them a while to achieve what they want to achieve. They go slowly with it.
Okay.
Okay? And I don't know whether you want me to stop with that or...
Well, I think since the person isn't here to validate or invalidate, it's just kind of, it's a good overview. You've given some insights into both this particular date and the Aries as well.
Okay. Did you want to name the Aries, or did you not have the person?
The person is one of the stars of television's Smallville, Annette O'Toole,
Okay.
who plays the Clark Kent's mother on the show.
Okay. And in some ways, her role fits exactly what she has to do. The Cancer mothering aspect would be there too, and the uniqueness, the individualness. Okay.
Okay.
I didn't know whether you wanted to tell me afterwards or
Yeah,
not.
no,
Okay.
it's not fair to both you and the viewer not to name the name.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's just continue on with, it's another April date. It's April 30th, but a lot later on, the year 1982.
Okay.
So, and yeah,
Now, what we're going to also be looking at here, it's 82, did you say?
82.
There are generational aspects that are involved in this also, because what works for one generation doesn't always work for another, and sometimes the outer planets have moved ahead, and either they'll have what's left over from the other, or they'll be starting something new. So it's April 30, 1982, correct? Okay, now this person is a Taurus, and Taurus energy is, in many ways, they're steadfast, they're sensitive, they're very committed to something, but like the bull, when they get angry, they can be very, very fiery and charge, okay? They're stubborn, they're fixed, and they want things to be their way. And also, where Aries is fire and is activity, the Taurus is earth. This person could be a wonderful artist, could be a very compassionate businessman, could be someone who works again in finances, or works in creating the most beautiful statue of someone. Okay, they're very artistic, and it seems to be that they go one way or the other, either the artistic or the more tangible material, and also they're usually excellent cooks because they like that as a form of expressing
Creativity
right.
through food.
And this one has a moon in Leo, so this could be an artist or a television or theater person, because the moon wants to express. The moon is very, very regal in certain ways, and very out there, very I am on stage in what they're doing, and work from there, okay? We have Mercury in Taurus, which again gives them a very plodding, I'm going to use that term, but it doesn't mean, they're just very slow, very defined, very focused on what they want to build. And sometimes these are people who build large industries or build different types of companies or things. So it's a very fixed sign. Now, Venus is in Pisces, which makes them a little more, again, a little more sensitive, soft. Their values are very artistic. They're very, in some ways, very serving. They could also be, in some ways, self-sacrificing with that particular Venus. They want to do for others, but they don't always take time for themselves. And we can go into Mars, which is again in Libra, and they like partnership. They need a partner, whether it be a company, a country, or a person. There's that need for it. And I don't know, do you want me to go on in this, or do you want to just stop with that?
It's the co-star of the Spider-Man movies, Ms. Kirsten Dunst. She played Mary Jane Parker in the movies, and she was also a child actress in Interview with the Vampire. Also, so
that's interesting that she's taken more of the dreamy aspect of her life, the characters that she's played. She's played characters that are not as natural as we would say. She's gone more to, in many ways, the Leo and the Pisces than with the Taurus. But she's created them. She's brought them to life. She's made them real, which in some ways is part of that Taurus.
How does your chart or your reading affect how you might interact with other people of other signs?
It affects it a lot, okay? We have aspects in a chart. We have squares, we have oppositions, we have trines. If you happen to choose, and there are a polarity with astrology. Aries' polarity is Libra. Taurus's polarity is Scorpio.
So almost magnetic opposites.
Opposites, and that's one aspect. But when we have the squares, okay, that's more challenging, okay? And so I think we all have experienced a point of time where we've walked into a room and someone's been there, and then we've actually absolutely sort of been repelled by the person or have not known what to do with them. If we were to look at the signs, we would say, whoa, okay, this person is totally different. It could be an opposition, or it could be a square, as Taurus squares Aquarius. So there might be just a total different energy.
So just perhaps if you meet someone and they just, without even doing anything to give you a reason for not liking them, you just feel repulsed. I mean, repulsed is a strong word, but you just, I don't like him and I don't know why.
Yes, that often happens. Now there's another level of that too, because it might be a karmic experience, something in the lives where the two of you have been together and you build up an aversion to one another. But most likely and quite often, it's just the different signs reacting. And you may find that later on, as you build one of two things, either that stays with you and you never can really accept that person or be close to that person, and the other is you can relax a little bit and eventually understand the person. But it's definitely there. It's absolutely there.
Okay.
Okay?
So, let me throw another date at you. Let's go the year 1972, August the 12th.
August 12, 72. Okay. Let's see what we have here.
Okay.
Okay, we have a Leo. And Leos are fun signs in many ways, okay? There's a lot of bravado about a Leo. There's a lot of bravery about a Leo. There's also a lot of creativity, okay? They're always acting in some ways. But in many ways, the Leo is the lion who roars and has courage. But underneath that is his heart is tender and sensitive as a kitten. And the bravado is there with Leos. It's always out there, but there's still that inner quietness.
Okay.
Okay, and they too are fixed, and so sometimes it's hard to move them along. They want to stay where they are, but extremely interesting because they're always dynamic. They're ruled by the sun, okay, so there's always energy, always pushing forward, always wanting to lead or do something.
Okay.
Now, in this particular case, interestingly enough, the moon is in Virgo, and the moon in Virgo is very sensitive, okay? The moon in Virgo people are very shy, very modest at times, and they're perfectionists. They think they have to be perfect, and everyone around them has to be perfect. And they sometimes, give themselves those situations where the perfection doesn't come. They're also, in some ways, because they have that quest for perfection, they don't always have an easy time finding a partner or a mate because they always want that person to be perfect, okay?
Okay.
All right?
Well, we're going to hold on to that thought for when I reveal who
Okay.
it is.
All right.
So, but actually, that was Ben Affleck. So the whole relationship thing has been very much in the news over the last few months.
And that's where it is. It's interesting. I was wondering whose that would be, and that fits him perfectly. And I didn't know that. I hadn't really followed that, but it fits what I see in
But
him.
it just caught me. And we have about 3 minutes left, so I'm going to throw one more date out, and we'll just get into it briefly. The year is 1954. The date is the 22nd of October.
22nd of October in 54. Okay. Let's see what we have here. 22nd of October, at that time, this sun is 28 degrees of Libra. Okay, and you notice that in the choices, a lot of the people that we took were influenced by Libra or by Venus. Okay, they were either the Taurus or Venus energy. They had it there within them, and this one too. This one is someone who also believes very strongly in equality, in fairness, in partnership, in relationship.
Okay.
Okay, and again, artistically, they may want to do a lot of things, not just one area. They just may have a tendency, and they're very indecisive. Librans can't make up their mind. They change their mind a lot of times. Okay. They have, this particular Libran has a Virgo moon, which again makes for that sensitiveness, that modesty, that shyness, that need for perfection. Okay, an interesting combination. Mercury is retrograde in Scorpio. Okay, this person is very intuitive, okay, and probably very spiritual at the basis of their being. Somebody who goes into trying to understand the source of everything in certain ways. And in some ways can also be very volcanic, because with the Mercury in Scorpio, that can be volcanic. And we have Venus in 29 degrees of Scorpio. Whoa. Okay, this is intensity personified. And the person needs the drama of interaction with people. Okay, this one is bordering, it's on the cusp. So the Venus is not, it's something that's been learned. It's something that the person has learned through maybe sexual experiences, maybe powerful emotional experiences. There's been something that they had to learn. And when they go on to their next life, it will probably be a little bit different in the way they express themselves. Okay, and they have a Mars in Aquarius, and that's interesting because the Mars in Aquarius is more adventuresome after all the stability of the other planets. The other planets are more or less based in a past situation. Mars in Aquarius is, I want to do something new. I want to go a different direction.
And we're almost out of time, and I'm just going to tell you, she's not world famous yet, but she's famous amongst the Access community. It's a good friend of mine, Ms. Louise Mercado.
Oh, interesting.
Who that was for, and she sent that in by special request.
Oh, okay. She has a lot of things she can do, okay?
Okay. And I wish we could get into them all, but we're just about out of time. A half an hour just flies right by. And
it sure does.
Really want to thank you for coming. And yeah, to those open to the possibility, you can contact Arlene through our website, which is www.talkingabout.info, or you can write into us. The address will be up in just a minute. And thank you again.
Thank you, Jonathan, for allowing me to express my interest in love and astrology. It's fun.
And we'll see you next time. Bye now.